Hello and welcome to the Spirit Tech Hub. I'm Omer Tzuk, co-founder and community manager of Spirit Tech Hub, a community exploring the intersection of technology, consciousness, and spiritual experience. Today's conversation features Jose Monteyor Alba. He's a co-founder of the Cyberdelic Nexus, an ecosystem dedicated to transformation of our relationship with technology. We will explore what distinguishes truly cyberdelic technologies from addictive digital media, how generative AI is reshaping consciousness exploration, and the tension between creating transformative technologies and the market forces that threatens to co-opt them. Jose will share his vision for converting fleeting digital insights into stable traits that enhance clarity, creativity, and connection. We are not here to sell enlightenment or reject wisdom traditions. We are here to ask better questions. Can these technologies support gaining spiritual growth? Who benefits? What are the risks? And how do we navigate this landscape with wisdom? Let's dive in. So here we go. Good evening. Hello, Jose. We are here in an online meetup of the Spirit Tech Hub with you, Jose, from the Cyberdelic Nexus. We are very happy to have you here.
Thank you.
We wanted our community to get to know about your exciting community and initiative called the Cyberdelic Nexus. I would certainly like to hear about soon about the Cyberdelic Nexus itself, but I think it's also very important as a background for our audience, because I think that cyberdelic it's not a term that many people use. I first encountered it in a book, in a paper, I think, by a researcher in Israel, who talked about cyberdelics and talked about its origin in the 80s, 90s, with thinkers like Timothy Leary that were kind of envisioning how computers will be the drugs of the future. And I think that, as I know, there was a period in which the term cyberdelic was not very much used. And in the recent years, there is a kind of a new surge of hearing about cyberdelics in the cyberspace. And I wanted to ask you, how do you find, what is cyberdelics for you? What is
Yes. Okay, awesome. Let's go to the origin stories of the word and also a little bit of the historical background. And, first of all, to define it very clearly and simply, a cyberdelic is a technology-mediated experience, tool, system, or platform that helps or assists the understanding or navigation of states of consciousness. That's the simplest definition we can give. But really at the core, cyberdelics, go way back into almost like a stance, almost like an active rebellion against what was currently happening between the 80s and 90s in the dot-com bubble, when all these, industries were taking over the net, which previously in the 60s counterculture and the 70s was seen as a new frontier for human evolution, as a way for freeing the mind, and in a very techno-utopian way, right? But because those high promises of liberation and freedom did not meet reality, the cyberpunk genre called cyberpunk was born, which is a kind of an antithesis to this techno-utopia. It's a dystopian science fiction genre, which talks about stories that have very high technological advancement, but with very low life standards. So same problems that we have today, but in a very futuristic scenario. And with the cyberpunk science fiction, there is an archetype that is born, which is the archetype of the hacker. And the hacker not only hacks the tools that is within its reach in the settings that it lives, but also it hacks the mind. It hacks the consciousness outside of the oppressing systems that it's been born into. So what they use in these fictions is drugs, technological drugs, to escape those prisons. And these are the origins of a cyberdelic approach or stance, which means, a way of reclaiming back our attention and our mind through the use of technology. Now, but if we kind of dissect the word cyberdelic, we have two words that make it. One is cybernetics and the other one is psychedelics. So cybernetics, the origins of the word comes from the Greek kybernetikes or kybernetes, which actually points at the art of steering through feedback. So this, probably came up when, sailors in the ocean were steering ships and they were looking at where to go through the feedback of nature, the wind, they were reading the stars, and they mastered the art of sailing or steering through feedback. And in the sense of this art of steering, the word was coined not until 1948 by Robert Weiner, which wrote Cybernetics, the scientific study of the control of communication in the animal and machine. So he was pointing at, feedbacks that self-regulate and find some kind of dynamic balance. So somehow really cybernetics not only point at technology as we relate it today, but it points more as this feedback loop that we are constantly in relationship with the world. And it really also is not only about the feedback loop, but it's also how to navigate those feedback loops. Now, the other word is psychedelics, which we know is composed by psyche, which is soul or mind, and then delos, which is the revealing or the manifestation of the mind or the soul. So at the core, cyberdelics is the art of navigating the revealing of the mind, right? And you can do it in many forms. But really, I feel like the origins of cyberdelics do not come just from science fiction or, people like Leary or McKenna, which actually McKenna was the one that coined the term in a, let's say, hackers gathering in Germany, in Stuttgart, around the 90s. It was the first time that word was used in public in a kind of very cyberpunk style or inspired event. But I think, like, if we go even way back, even before Leary, people like John C. Lilly, people like Marshall McLuhan or Buckminster Fuller, I consider them like the proto-cyberdelic icons, because Lilly, in its approach to experience altered states with ketamine or LSD in flotation tanks, so he was combining technology to navigate a state, or Marshall McLuhan letting us know that there's always a feedback between the media and the message, and also the medium that shapes the message. And also Buckminster Fuller, where he thought like technology had a purpose deeper than the instrumentality of it, something more humane, something in service of flourishing of the mind. So really, I feel those are the, pillars in which, like, the Leary and McKenna kind of also get inspired to foresee this future, as you said, Omer, where the future of technologies will be like drugs, but the drugs of the future will also be like computers. And that's a little bit in a nutshell where the cyberdelic stance comes from.
Great, thanks. And so Maybe can you tell us how you arrived to be interested in this term and your personal story of entering into this world?
Sure. Okay, so three events happened at the age of 23. I experienced a kind of existential crisis, as you should, when you're in that age and you are asking the right questions. And in that point, I was studying a master's degree in photography, and I had to do my master's project. And in this kind of deep questioning, I was finding in that point in my life that all the work that I was doing wasn't, connecting to something meaningful. It was perhaps fulfilling some level of aesthetics and technicality, but yet I was not touching the meaning that I was seeking in my work. So just gathered my insubstantial student savings at that point and took a trip to Japan. And in that trip, everything changed. I really wasn't expecting what happened to me there, which as I arrived in the airport, I was interviewed by this random TV program called Why Did You Come to Japan? It's just like the things that, only happens in movies. But okay, I was in a very new country with only a destination in mind, but not necessarily an understanding of how to get there. And in the interview, it's just like one of those funny comedy reality shows that they interview random people. They ask them why are they here for, and I told them my journey is towards Kumano a pilgrimage in Nara that connects three Buddhist temples. I want to go there, walk, take photos, strip myself out from the world I was living in back then in London. So long story short, I said yes because they asked me if they could follow me and document the process. And it was a perfect moment because they had a translator and also they had a cameraman and someone that was going to document the journey of, walking and finding or confronting myself in the process of getting to my destination. So that process led me to some kind of confrontation and realization, and almost to find, connection in humans that were beyond the superficiality of what I was, accustomed to in London, and mainly because, I didn't realize that until I finished the trip. At some point they actually had to leave. It was a 4-month journey, and they couldn't follow me for the whole thing. So they had to leave and I did the rest by myself. But it wasn't until I came back to London when they published the whole journey in national television in Tokyo. And it was my first, let's say, micro viral moment in my life where actually people from all around Japan saw and felt connected and deeply touched by my journey of discovering their culture and connecting with people and photographing them. And I felt that was a crucial moment for me because it connected me with how my work could have meaning and touch others. Second event is after coming back to London, I had my first encounter with my first psychedelic experience. It was a mushroom in my room in London, nothing fancy, not in nature, not as you should. But back then I already was establishing a meditative practice and some kind of awareness practice. And it was just like cracking an egg. And it felt like it really allowed me to almost like see what I could not see before. And from the next day, I was like very clear of what I had to do, what I had to quit, what I had to realign into. And the third event was the creation of my master's project. Finally, I had to just put it all together. And by that point, it was 2014 towards 15, and it was the release of the first Oculus, let's say, developer kit #1, which is like, I call it the puke machine because it was just like not okay for doing VR, but it was like one of the first VR available headsets for the consumers. And I bought it and I said, okay, I'm gonna transcend my medium, which back then was photography, but I also want to create a representation of the new identity that is starting to being born in me. So I decided to recreate a near-death experience in virtual reality to almost like symbolically go into the journey of dying and being reborn. So that led me to just deepening myself into all the medical literature of near-death experiences and the mystical phenomena that comes with those experiences. And I felt fascinated, I felt intrigued, and I knew that I could not like conceptualize such a profound and difficult and very personal journey, but I could create a certain narrative for catalyzing thoughts and introspection about death, about dying, about the life review, about consciousness. So I finished my master's, I started showing it, and to my surprise, really, I wasn't expecting it because I really did it for my own process. But in the process of showing it, people were touched, people were crying, people were finally talking about death. And that felt very meaningful, and people were encouraging me to keep going into this rabbit hole. And 2 years later, I started, as I was invited to show this publicly into different events, I started finding other people actually that were doing similar consciousness explorations with technology, or finding deeper ways of relating to technology. And I think at that point we were quite inspired by this energy, and we decided to create a society. We called it the Cyberdelic Society. And that was like a way for us to put something out there in the internet and just make a call and say, hey guys, we're here. This is what we stand for. Come join us. And that was in 2017. And from there to today, we've been growing constantly. And now we are a community all around the world exploring this edge, not only artists, but also developers, entrepreneurs, scientists, all kinds of people from around the world just trying to, build this paradigm for changing our relationship with technology, and, also designing ways of exploring more meaningful ways to being inspired by this human technology relationship.
Great. I invite every one of us, if you want to ask questions, it's an open space. If not, I will just keep on. Something that occurs to me, I think it's one of the paradoxes or kind of conflict inside of this world of cyberdelics, is what you talked about, that it's related to the root of cyberdelics with the cyberpunk movement and this kind of rebellion against the massive control that advertisement and governments and other trying to to act on us through media in general, through the mass media. And what do you think? So the medium itself of using VR technology, of using screens in general, or it's something that when you take psychedelic, the manifestation of your consciousness is coming from inside, and everything that you meet is becoming some kind of a show of your inner being, in a sense. So there is an interaction. But what happens when you try to use technology to achieve the same thing? Because now you are in front of a computer screen, or inside of a VR, there is some difference between this and psychedelics. I wonder what you think about the opportunities and limitations of using technology to create such an experience.
No, that's a great question, Omer. I think at the core, something that cyberdelics are clear is that they are not trying to replace psychedelic. Most of the, let's call them the purists that say, how can technology, be the same as a psychedelic? Is a high critique that actually we've been experiencing from this type of people, and we agree. We're not trying to replace or replicate. What we're trying to do is to create experiences that help us navigate better those states, but most importantly is to shift this focus towards from states towards traits. And this is important because there is a problem within the psychedelic scene, which is like these peak junkies that are trying to just like ride the next wave towards their reconnecting to those states that remind them of their true nature or their connection with everything, etc. And I think it's a problem because even for example last year in psychedelic science conference in Denver, the main topic was integration, and I think this is the main kind of problematic today within the cyberdelic user, which is constantly seeking for the states. And Ken Wilber once mentioned that states are cheap, but traits are earned. And I think you cannot rely on psychedelics for trait development, because long-term use in a specific amount of doses, it can be potentially dangerous, or people can start disassociating too much, or perhaps you see some of the, these problematics with high use of psychedelics. On the other side, psychedelics are more controlled. They are more subtle. They focus more on the trait development, like the metacognitive training for learning about states, but also anchoring them into traits. And I think that is where we see the long-lasting change. In my own experience, as I was telling you before, that psychedelic experience I had, I probably today don't remember all the details of what happened in that altered state, but I do notice what I kept with the traits that I developed after the experience. And the trait development is through practice, is through behavioral change. And I think cyberdelics is an easier and, let's say, more reliable way to develop that trait. And this is important as well to mention, and is that cyberdelics work in pair with ancient technologies and ancient practices. It's not trying to say, now to become X, you need Y. No, it's actually one more tool in the toolkit that is available to us. And as we know, the brain doesn't really care if it's virtual, if it's a dream, if it's a psychedelic vision, or, anything. It's an experience. It's new synaptic connections that you can create by having these feedback loops and learning about yourself through them.
Jose, if someone is now watching us maybe later for this recording and asking himself, how can I get into this world in my circle? So it can be someone that maybe has more access or less access. Can you give some tools from basic things to phones, to habits, to something more advanced, to harness something that is a bit more, or how to look at it? Something that can be like a hook to fish something for that.
Yes. The simplest and easiest way to start developing a cyberdelic, let's say, relationship with technology is to notice in which feedback loops you are trapped into. Okay, so currently most design incentives for technology are not necessarily humane. They, optimize for addiction, prescription, prediction, and that way we've seen it. Actually, yesterday a friend of mine sent me some news from Spain. They also start banning social media until 16 years old, right? Like, this is a phenomenon that we're seeing now, the repercussions of our choices, of the design incentives of current state of technology. So because they are designed for that, you must start noticing and developing the awareness of what is the feedback loop you're trapping. what are you trading? Because at the end, there's always a trade-off. And Marshall McLuhan said that any new advancement in technology, there is an amputation of a trait or something, a capacity internal of the human. For example, when we developed GPS, we suddenly didn't have to memorize all the streets. Now, navigate without GPS, you feel lost. Same with the calculator and onwards. It's these traits that we are, amputating. We gain something, but we lose something else. In this case, it's a bit more dangerous because we're talking about human downgrading. We're actually losing very important capabilities, like especially with these AI tools that they're just like everywhere now. Critical thinking, imagination, attention, like these traits are important for the development of the mind, and we're trading them. The trade-off is focus for distraction, awareness for autopilot, creativity for consumption, or like vision for short-term pleasure. And this is what you need to start noticing. It's like the feedback loops you're trapped into. And then once you notice them, you have to develop a certain type of agency, that you're not just a consumer in the loop, but you are an agent in the loop, because there's no escape. There's always a loop, but you can choose which loop you're into. And that's where we start doing this more trait development and perceptual awareness of, what's, in favor of my development or what is, not. So that's the easiest. But if you want to start, let's say, entering or let's say researching about the ecosystem of tools that are available out there that have been designed with the incentives of a cyberdelic stance or philosophy, you can check it out on our website. We have created like one of the most comprehensive databases of all the tools that you have available, but not only tools, research, articles, experiences, platforms. You can check it out at core.cyberdelic.nexus. And it's a growing library. And if you are watching these and you feel like there's something missing, there's a button for you to add it. There's a criteria that you can read about, like what makes something a cyberdelic. Very simple, but it is a way of gathering all these tools out there that can help us, expand our toolkit of tools. Yeah. You're muted. Yeah.
I'm very curious about what you think about, because indeed, like as you mentioned, like the origin of the word cyberdelics is like from steering, and up until very recently, like the cyberspace was populated by websites, by a lot of information and a lot of opportunities. But in the recent years, we see the rise of kind of new entities like the Gen AI, the language models, the image generators, and as you said, like part of their kind of negative outcome is that they already show that they're having a negative impact on people's ability to write, just to write, because people use more and more like language models. But where do you see? So now there is this new agent in the cyberspace. How do you find it relating to the idea behind cyberdelics? Like, what will be adventurous, like for?
Yeah. Well, at its core, I think it comes down to relationship. And you would hear me probably a couple of times mentioning this because it's one of the core principles that we build on top of. What is the relationship that you have today with reality? And if you examine what is your relationship with reality, you will understand that the quality of your reality is exactly at the intersection of your relationship with it. So if you change your relationship with it, your reality shifts and changes, right? In the example of AI, it is the relationship that you are developing with these agents, right? If you are saying, please give me all the answers, then you slowly lose the traits and the capabilities for you to come up with the answers. On the contrast, you can say, tell me really smart questions and make me think about deeper ways or find more clarity about my blind spots, you know, or elements of revealing the mind and help me navigate. I think someone wants to talk. No? No. It was maybe some echo. Can you guys hear it? I think that's sorted. Cool. I think we have a question from Ariel actually in the chat. Would you like to read it, Omar, or should we move forward with the agent's question?
If you can briefly finish with the agent, then I will.
Sure.
I will read the
So
Mariel.
Again, relationship shifts and reclaiming agency in systems designed for, you know, to influence us. You know, it's almost like you need to trade some kind of reflection from reaction. You know, you're choosing to react to the bot or to the agent as let's say a system that is just replicating, or a system that is reflecting with it to deepen your perspective on something or to assist you in the development of your becoming. Not replacing your therapist, please, because that has shown really negative consequences, especially people, you know, eventually suiciding because the AI tell them to. But actually, you know, helping the development of the traits. You know, AI is here. We have opened Pandora's box, or the genie is out of the bottle, but we have to develop a certain relationship with these, let's say, agent in our interaction and relationship, so we can also teach it and have feedback loops in both ways, right? As it trains from our data or our relationship to how we use it, it also trains us back. It's like this concept of ontological design, that design designs you back. There's a recursive feedback loop always. It's like the reason why churches are, you know, built that way is because they are architecting a state, the state of connecting with the divine, right? And it is the same. It is the same, but it really comes down to the intentionality and the relationship you have with it.
Thanks. So I will read maybe I will rephrase a bit Ariel's question. So he says, Jose, I'm approaching the same, I'm reading it, that he is approaching the same question as you are, but his medium is through the body more than Cyberdelic. So he's creating a physical platform. He call it iFree, and it uses movement, rhythm, sounds, and the idea is to bypass cognitive control and to enter into altered states of consciousness without substances. And so if is what he's asking, like that technology is infrastructure that removes intermediaries between body and consciousness, I will jump to his question. What happens when immersive environments meets a platform that already induces this state somatically? Like, how do you see the interaction between cyberdelics and kind of practices which are more somatic? If Ariel, if I did that phrase it correctly? I think this was more or less the question.
So if I understand correctly, the question is in regards to replacement. Like what happens if the body already does it, but then a platform comes and replaces that? Is that correct, Ariel?
Sorry.
אתה שומע אותנו, אריאל?
אני רק לא מבין הכל.
אוקיי.
אם אפשר יותר...
So,
Well, a couple of things come to mind. If you mind, I can jump in. Okay. And this is really at the core of the, let's say, antithesis of transhumanism, right? The antithesis is hyperhumanism. And a transhumanist perspective of developing this technology will indeed replace the, let's say, operating system that the body has to enhance or amplify that state. But a hyperhuman would say, actually, let's use technology as like the training wheels for the trait to develop so then you can access it without technology. And that's why, you know, Cyberdelic is technology agnostic. It really doesn't necessarily need to be about modern technology. It can be ancient technology or, you know, biological technology. At the end of the day, the body in itself is a very advanced technology. So much so that now actually some scientists are developing computers powered by neurons. Have you seen that? That's pure science fiction, to be honest. But when you realize that, you know, cybernet, like somehow nature is cybernetic, because, you know, as trees follow the sun, right? The flock of birds follow the magnetic of the earth to, you know, migrate, or the body self-regulates for certain systems or like viruses or, you know, organs. This art of navigation is, I think, at the core of the cyberdelic sense. Is like, let's develop the trait. Let's not replace it with a new tool or a platform. But I think today, and maybe you agree or not, but we have lost or forgotten how to access it in the same way as we used to back in the day, or how our ancestors did it. Don't want to romanticize ancestors, but in a way or another, they were like doing something right. Some things were not as right, but some things, especially about wisdom, especially about states engineering, especially about, you know, ontological design, they knew something. And I think they didn't replace it with something else. It was more about a U-turn inwards and finding the capability of doing it and reclaiming that trait.
Interesting. So I wanted, Eliyahu, you have a question?
Just a quick question. If you can share like your overview, where are we going from now on, in the terms of bird eye view, but something more practical. I know we can see as we spoke about the shift of Meta with their VR world, and like we see some signs of other indicator for where things are headed. If you can share your perspective, where are we going, because we are all have different thoughts about what AI means, and just to have this combined view of spirit and earth matter in this sense.
It's a difficult, very complex question because of the state of where we are in humanity, right? And I really like what Tristan Harris has been writing about. He's like one of the co-founders of the Center of Humane Technology, and he talks about the golden path, or the narrow path, because the narrow path. I made the association with the golden path with Dune. I'll tell you why in a second. But this narrow path, he talks, is this very fine stretch, like very thin path towards a technologically humane future. But the statistics of how things are moving, it is most likely that things will either end up in chaos or in dystopia. And this is unfortunately the situation we're in. However, it is still a hope that we can reframe the trajectory of how we are designing technology. Now, this comes down with a sacrifice, and that's why I made an association with Dune's, let's say, science fiction. If you haven't watched it, Paul Atreides, the main character, at some point kind of takes responsibility of his destiny and goes into another region of the planet. He had to build some kind of potion, or let's say elixir coming from a worm. This elixir makes him go through a kind of near-death experience and unlocks this power of omnipresence. And omnipresence means, and that's why I like doing it, is like they don't have like superpowers of like flying or shooting lasers from the eyes. It's like actually just understanding that this presence allows you to see clearly the past and clearly all possibilities in the future. And Paul Atreides had to find the narrow path towards saving their people from the destruction coming from the Empire, right? These are stories that are useful because at the end, what Paul Atreides does is that he starts the Holy Wars in the saga to walk the narrow path towards salvation. Unfortunately, at the end of the science fiction, he becomes more like a villain than a hero. But this is something that is relatable to us now. It's like we need to make a sacrifice to find a narrow path towards technological, a humane technological future. And I feel like, unfortunately, Meta's intention, despite their, let's say, $72 billion investment in the metaverse being totally shut down, it tells just one thing, that they shift towards where the money is. And the money at the moment is in AI and augmented reality. Virtual reality will still be there for the enthusiasts and the people that will require specific applications that need VR, but the consumer, the mass consumer, will adopt more an augmented reality and mainly through the interface of AI. That doesn't mean that it is positive or negative. It's just how markets are shifting. Perhaps VR will have its comeback at some point. But I feel like, regardless of where the market is, my honest concern is that we're moving too fast without actually pausing and contemplating what is actually what we need. Like, it seems like this AI race is for the first one that gets to AGI, but I think that we're racing for the wrong motives. We need to change what the race is for, and the incentives of how we are developing this new future that we're co-creating. So this is my current lecture of where we are. It's difficult to understand if we're going to achieve A or Y, because most likely the statistics tells, the numbers tells, things are not going to end up good. However, there's still hope. And that's where I want to kind of double click on, because it's our responsibility to tell the stories that we want to tell about the futures that we want to create. Not as a way of, let's say, doing this techno-utopianism like back in the 60s, like over-promising futures, more about protopia and ways of programming the collective imagination so the science fiction of the present can become the facts of the future and the fact that we want to see. And that's why I feel like we live right now, as we just previously mentioned, like this computer powered by neurons. These things were coming from, the imagination of the human mind. If now we see that most of those can become true, why not creating the stories of the futures that we want to live in? And that's the responsibility of all of us.
I want to follow that question and even your words about it, and ask like if it would go like the way you imagine it or you want it to be, was like what's your vision of the right path of the integrating these technology? How would everyday reality would look? I mean, or just tell us a story, your story.
I can give you just a fraction of the possible
Yeah, of
future, but
course.
not the entire story. But as I see it, is that we have developed a humane relationship with technology, so much so that it is in favor of our principles, our development, of our flourishing. And it helps us to develop an ecology of practices, both that require no tech, low tech, or high tech. All these practices are in service for the development of the human. And in this relationship that we have established, this harmonious balance between human tech relationship, we allowed ourselves to double down on what makes life meaningful. It's almost as if all of these things that we're afraid of AI actually shows us the other face. It's actually ways of humans to find more meaning in life. So the meaning crisis and all of these meta crises slowly start, fading away, and almost like the human life becomes so valuable because of its imperfection, because of its limitation, because of its, rawness, and really isn't about like a future where we become cyborgs and completely, change our eyes for, bionic eyes, or replace our skeleton for an exoskeleton. No, it's actually this technology that is highly attuned with natural systems and organic matter that allows us to plug in, plug out, and have this right middle path, basically, between, the benefits of reaping, the tools that we are inventing, but also the ways in which it helps us remember of who we are and become more humane.
Oh, yes, but just another thing. Don't you think like there's a danger of being like over dependent? Let's say that we're gonna go this way, but there's a danger of being over dependent on technology in order to develop. I mean, once our biologically and for ages we've been like developing, and the evolution was biological. And yes. Now you put in a new system, which is a fast-growing, advanced technology, and there's a very, I think, grave danger of being very dependent upon.
We focus also on the in between. From the biological evolution, we also started using language, which could be considered a technology. We started using art.
Definitely.
We started using the wheel, fire, and all these tools have always redefined what it means to be human somehow. It is crazy to think that today one of the most, let's say, considered basic needs for a human is to have internet connection. We find that crazy, right? It's now a basic need because we have access to information, to actually life-saving information that could potentially get, out of trouble or out of a dangerous situation. Or, vice versa. It can get you into feedback loops that get you into echo chambers of conspiracy theories and, make you paranoid. And that's, again, like relationship shifts. But you're right. Like, we must not forget our biology and the technology of the body and, the benefits of being in nature. And I think that's where the balance is. Some of the science fiction being born right now from this kind of protopian view is a new science fiction, well, not so new, but like new-ish science fiction genre called solar punk or lunar punk. So these are more positive futures that are in balance to nature. So I recommend you check it out. Some stories from there or some artwork, so you see what's up.
Yeah, I know about it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks. Well, if there is more time, I will be also very interested to hear your thought on. We have here both Eliyahu and Lior are inventing and playing with various forms of rituals in kind of technology.
Oh, wow.
Maybe I don't know if you know Lior already, but maybe Lior will tell us a bit about his the spaces that he creates. You know already what Eliyahu is up to. And I've been in both spaces that Lior and Eliyahu are doing, and I find them very, very interesting, especially in the terms of like the kind of portray a vision of creating a ritual, which is actually like I have double. So the idea is that the question is whether you see the option of creating rituals which does not require the people to share the physical space, and what do you think about it in a sense? Because maybe
Yeah,
there could be rituals through virtual reality, and
indeed.
how do we feel about it? Like,
Okay, so at the core, I think ritual, again, talking about like the beginnings of evolution, ritual is also one of those early technologies that we started using to reprogram the mind, right? Like to develop new ways of connecting with something grander, or to find ways of like micro, adjust our mornings or evenings to, ritualize them and, reminds us of what is truly meaningful. And I think at this point, rituals are always going to be, evolving and, reshaping by the tools that we're using to reconnect or to remember. And one of the rituals that I know about Eliyahu's ritual, and I found super, super inspired when I found out about it. I was like, yeah, this guy gets it. And at the end, I also been participating on different kinds of ritual. For example, there is an association that I've been working for. It's a lab in Santiago de Compostela. It's called the Intangible Realities Lab. And this lab is led by David Glowacki. And if you want to go into like this controversy between cyberdelics, or what he calls neurodelics, and psychedelics, this paper that he put out and came out in Nature created a whole controversy within the psychedelic science field. Again, like these purists of like, how can this guy say that, this experience can reproduce the same effects? But the science is there and it's replicable. And I've been part of some of the clinical studies, and I've been facilitating that experiences so much that now we are starting to implement it for cancer patients, like people that just got diagnosed with cancer. And it's an experience that is a group VR experience. So we go all together and form a circle, and we interact with each other, not as humans through the human interface, but as essence, as light. And through these, let's say, stripping down of like the representational layers of, all the meaning that we do, when stripping down into a non-representational aesthetic, which David calls the non-representational aesthetic, or the nomadic aesthetic, he basically allows the consciousness to embed meaning on the abstract layers of his experience. But that is not the most profound thing about his experience. What is truly where the meat is when you touch topics like death and dying with people that are going through that, and to go and practice together some of the states that you might encounter before, for example, the last breath, right? Or after, like an out-of-body experience, or an experience of nothingness, not as an empty void, but as a space full of potential. And it is like through these technological interventions and ritualistic settings that we've seen from patients that are completely angry about life because they're about to die, to starting to reduce their anxiety of death, but also understand that is perhaps it's not the end, maybe. And just like planting that seed through immersive art, through technology, through ritual, to start, allowing the mind to expand its perception and, amplify the aperture of awareness of what they thought is possible. And I think that's one way in which rituals are being kind of modernized. But I feel more and more artists, especially artists on the performance side of things, are embedding ritual because of perhaps something that is being lost over time. And there's a book, actually really, really good book called The Loss of Rituals, that explains exactly that. Is how society, if it loses rituals, starts crumbling down. Because at the end of the day, is one of the things that build it up. So yeah, when I heard about Eliyahu's rituals, like these cacao ceremonies with these cyberdelic journeys in the dome, I was highly inspired because it is this infinite future that, you know, allows us to, you know, align a relationship with technology that is humane.
Eliyahu, tell him, Eliyahu and myself are actually doing something interesting tomorrow evening
Oh,
regarding
wow.
that. Yeah, we're kind of doing a lucid dream journey in Eliyahu's dome, which will be part
Amazing.
ceremonial and part, yeah, it's going to be interesting to find this state. By the way, the cyberdelic in those stage of using, like for example, binaural sounds to adjust the brain waves and stuff like that into a state of consciousness. So we're gonna try some of that stuff tomorrow.
This is the live
That
event
is
that the
fascinating.
live video.
Yeah, awesome.
Exactly.
That is awesome. Actually, we just started with the same tool that I was explaining of doing these death rituals or this death practice. We been invited by the University of Virginia to facilitate a new experience I co-designed with Justin, which is one of the main lead experience designers at Anuma and the Intangible Realities Lab, mainly for the purpose of expanding lucidity. There was a paper back in the day by Andrew Holecek, one of the main kind of authors on dream yoga and lucid dreaming, who, you know, is theorizing that people that play video games have higher potential for lucid dreaming because there's this association or suspension of disbelief, or the ability to kind of navigate between fantasy and reality. And in these experiments, we are using these tools, like these group experiences, to train the states for enhancing lucidity, to recognize that you're dreaming as you're dreaming, and to, you know, develop some of the dream yoga techniques once you are aware that you're dreaming in a lucid dream.
Amazing. So maybe I will ask just more like kind of closing question, and we will open up for just chit-chatting for the rest of the time that people can be here. And so I will ask, what is your vision for the next period of the Cyberdelic Nexus? And where are you heading? And how do people from our community, from the Spirit Tech Hub, can engage with your activity?
Okay, so at this point, the Cyberdelic Nexus, as I told you before, like the origins is the society. But 3 years ago, we decided to create a Cyberdelic Nexus because we saw the potential for expanding towards an academy, a laboratory, a dojo, and basically the society as the grassroots approach. And right now, we're about to launch a membership platform in our website, cyberdelic.nexus, that gives you access to the courses, some free courses, others like in a very reasonable price, that allow you to kind of dive deeper into these topics and find out more tools. But this membership also comes with an initiation toolkit, like a Cyberdelic initiation toolkit, with some demos, some experiences that are VR or non VR, things that you can do to train this Cyberdelic philosophy. And we're also launching, actually just yesterday, we just launched a new tool called the Cyberdelic Experience Design Canvas. It's actually the one that you see here. You can go on canvas.cyberdelic.design. And if you want to maybe, you know, put together some ideas and, you know, design something meaningful, something impactful, something that not just focus on states, but also traits, you can use this tool. It's free. And basically you can play with the process of like 10 years of creating experiences in our team, that will help you, build it very, very fast. But the vision really at some point is, and in long term, is to become a pillar in the development of humane technologies. Those that assist in not only individuals, but groups in cultivating the ecology of practices through the Cyberdelic Dojo. And this is where we train. This is where we actually develop the traits. And we see that as pop-ups, or we see that as a potential physical space, but we're not there yet. We're trying to raise some funding to get there. But first, we are doing some scientific studies with a group called Sensoria Research Group, that actually allows this kind of study of neurophenomenology of consciousness through different tools and techniques. And we're going to be doing a study on our protocol called States to Traits protocol. And we want to implement some studies there so we can, get some science behind these models and frameworks to reliably, shift states into traits and, help us become more humane.
Amazing and exciting.
That's it. I mean, you can find us in all, well, not all, but like Instagram, Discord, and Telegram, and also Facebook. Although Facebook, we just repost whatever is in Instagram. Instagram is where we're most active. But yeah, most important, if you want to, stay up with the news, the best way is email. So subscribe to our mailing list. It's on cyberdelic.nexus, and you will find the subscription there.
Excellent. We'll send a link in our community, and I'm waiting for it for the courses. Is there already course available for?
There is one, but not available yet because we're waiting for the official release, and the official release is going to be by the 22nd of February. We're just like polishing the edges. And one thing I want to say actually is we're having an online event. All of you here are invited, and just because we're here, I would love to offer you a free entry. It's called the Cyberdelic Summit. It's an online event, and we have a couple of online interactions, like very interactive. It's a platform where you're in this world and you walk and you meet people, but also some keynote speakers to talk about cyberdelics and where the paradigm is shifting. And yeah, all invited. Is on April 10th and 11th. I will send you, it's on the website as well, but I will send you, Omer, all the links necessary for you to share them.
Excellent. We'll share the links. Wow, Jose, thank you very much. It was exciting and very interesting. And I truly hope that we can create that people from our community would like to engage. I certainly would like to engage, and I will tell you a bit. Maybe if you have more time, then we open up the space for people to just talk, and people are now. So
100%. And thank you, Omer. Thank you, Eliao, for the invitation. It's an honor. I also had the pleasure to meet Edward last year at Human Tech Week from Spirit Tech Collective. And I must say I'm really aligned to the vision of what you guys are building. And I think this like cross-pollination of platforms and communities is the way forward, because together we're stronger.
definitely.
Thank you so much for your time and leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Happy to receive any questions as well.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I'm interested in also, like I think many people in transformative experiences, and I would like to ask you personally if, like, in your experience in Cyberdelic and all this stuff that you've seen, and then what's the most transformative Cyberdelic experience that you have experienced? What were the tools? What is if there's something that comes up to mind?
Yeah, there is one, and I think not because of it did have that profound like aha moment, but it also helped me to anchor more my practice. There is an experience that I really love called Realms of Flow by a friend of mine called Mark Zimmerman, And it is an experience designed for connecting with the biofeedback of your voice, but also to develop the trait of meditating, of metacognition, basically. So this experience was transformative over time. It wasn't that kind of like flash, but it was definitely one that anchored my practice into something that I see the benefits of today. So I would recommend also, shifting also the search for the intensity towards the search for the trait development. However, if you want a very intense cyberdelic experience and you're like off for a ride, there's one called ayahuasca VR or Strands of Mind that I recommend quite a lot. But just recently, a friend of Eliao and myself just released Brain Candy. And Brain Candy is another very strong, powerful tool for state shifting. So only for the brave ones, because I would say we've been showing it in many shows, and some people love it. Some people actually feel it's quite intense. So
Wow,
be
really?
careful.
Right.
If we have a few more minutes, Elior, also, if you can share about your work, can you share about the app you mentioned about the experience design and about the view, and just to get some practical sides
You
on how
wanted to
it
share my
works?
screen
Yeah.
and give you guys a tour?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Yeah.
Okay, so if you go to canvas.cyberdelic.design, you will arrive into this landing page, and you can check out what it's all about. And you can do the free tier. The free tier will get you one canvas and most of the tools. The pro tier is allowing you AI features and also collaborative features and also project management features. And let's say that you have created your account. You're going to log in. Let's go into my account. Right. We'll land in your dashboard. And then you will see that you can create new canvases here, and you can see your canvases already created. So if you go into, let's start fresh, okay? Let's create a new canvas, and let's put spirit tech. All right, let's create the canvas, and the first thing that you're gonna be prompted is by the framing tab. And the framing tab, it really helps you to, from something that can feel very complex in experience design to really define it into a system. So we start with the core. What is your intention? The name of the project, the concept, and the core message. Then you go into the desired change. What is the insights that you want, the new understandings that you want to convey, the feelings, the states, and the knowledge. Then you go into the human context. Here is about the needs of the audience or the desires, and then the role of the user in the experience. Then you move into the more, context engineering, like where is the world? What is the setting? What are they seeing? What are they feeling? Then, oops, I skipped the story. Then, you wrote in a story, the narrative arc, and then the magic. What is the mechanisms that create transformation in your experience? And once you've done that, you go into the reality planes. And this is fun because you can choose between physical reality, virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, generative reality, like AI or procedural content, but also biological reality and cognitive reality. And you can bring these ones in order for how important they are for you, and you can define them. What is the interface or the modality you're going to use to deliver? Once you've done or define your reality planes, you go into the sensory domains. If there is going to be a primary visual or significant auditory or non-olfactory, gustatory, and haptic. So you define the sensors. Then the presence types. Is it mainly mental, significant emotional, social, minimal embodied, significant environmental, and minimal active? And lastly, you do the state and the trait mapping. And this is a way of what are the cognitive states, the emotional states, the somatic states, and the relational states in your experience, and then the same, but on the trait level. And once you've done, you complete, and you are guided into the canvas. And here in the canvas, you can see all of your experience, let's say, elements that you defined, and you can also drag them here to look at them in the editor, basically. And in this canvas, basically, it's just like a way of organizing your mind. You can create notes, you can create tasks, you can also create boards, different boards here that allow you to create a new canvas. So you can see here in the root, you can go deeper in and out. And it's a way of organizing. Basically, you can create titles, folders, shapes, lines, or embed links and files. So this is more like the organization of your mind, the creativity. But once you've done that, you can start tagging things, right? So you can start tagging towards, what is this content related to? It's related to the reality planes, or this one is related to the state mapping, or this one is related to the presence types. And this is where the kind of, let's say, cognitive and salience layer of this tool comes, which is the hypercube map. And this is let's say, a geometric metaphor that we're using for experience design. The outer cube in the hypercube represents the outer layers, like the reality plane, the sensory, the presence, the states, the traits, the meaning. But at the core, this inner cube, it represents the thing that is basically you're making the decisions from, the core message, what you want people to live with. And you can click on each of these phases, and these insights will help you to define, it will just help you to cognize what are the blind spots, what is missing. And you can see here that there are elements tagged by this plane, and you can have an overview of what you have tagged to almost like see the current map. You can also use these tools to navigate the map. And you can always go into the core and remind yourself, okay, what is this core about, etc. So this is mostly like for making sense of the experience and seeing blind spots over here. And lastly, we have the plan. So we have a Kanban board, a table, a timeline, and a calendar to actually set in place all the things that you need for actually developing the experience itself. You can come back into the canvas and you can invite collaborators. If you have the pro feature, you can invite any up to 3 members and collaborate in real time in this tool. And you can always download it as a PDF or a JSON file, or you can create a shared link so people that don't have an account can see your canvas, basically, or a summary of your experience. But yeah, one more feature, sorry. This is important. It's called the experience flow. Because once you have all the elements, you have to create a timeline. What happens in the preparation, the induction, the journey, the peak, and the integration. You can also delete these phases or create new ones if you want to personalize the journey. And you can say what is the degree of engagement in each of these phases. Okay, so maybe in the preparation, it's just going to be, observer, and it's going to have purely mental presence, and perhaps there's going to be some active presence because there's going to be an activity there. You write some notes about what happens and the estimated time, so 20 minutes. So here you can see now what is the engagement and the time, and then you can have this timeline of what happens throughout the whole experience design.
Wow.
That's it.
This is amazing.
Amazing. Beautiful.
Thank you, guys.
I would like, could you organize some maybe hackathon, like online hackathon with to show this tool for our community and maybe to build some stuff together?
That would be amazing. We actually threw our first hackathon last year. Actually, now that I'm sharing my screen, I'm going to share you some photos. It was a beautiful process to see because for the first time we gathered for 2 days with an intention of creating a Cyberdelic, and we put 4 teams of 5 people each with the intention of or the inspiration of create something that resembles synesthesia, the study of synesthesia. And we had some prizes, and people came up with some fascinating things. And I think the power that, of putting people together to create was very inspiring for us. And I think we're gonna double down on this hackathon format. And this is basically some photos of the hackathon. This guy, for example, created a modular synthesizer with this, I forgot his name, this kind of chip that you connect apples and objects to create sound, and then connected it to the headset to do some kind of audio reactive visuals. Then this guy created like a visual instrument that reacted to the music, and he did like a live performance. Then there was like a neurofeedback experiment as well, very, very amazing. We had teams creating all kinds of things. Really, at the end, it was beautiful to see that those people that really didn't have the knowledge of how to do things, all of a sudden were in teams of someone that knew, and then they unlocked new abilities. And it's also a way to build community and build in community. And fun. We had some prizes, and people were basically experimenting together. Like this one, it was like a massage with a haptic bed and a neurosity crown she was wearing. So the EEG was changing the visuals of the headset so she could see her emotional state. Very, very fascinating experiments, and I think we're going to double down on this.
Amazing. Where was it exactly?
This was in Berlin.
Berlin.
Yeah, but maybe we can make an online one or something similar. Or a person one in Israel. Up to you guys.
Wow.
Amen. Aho.
Yeah, definitely. Amazing. Wow.
Thank you again. I will stop the recording now. I will maybe we'll have some.
Just maybe one more thing once we're here, if you don't mind.
Of course.
If you notice here on the left, we have Cyberdelics and Knowledge Bank. If you click on Cyberdelics, here you have it. This is the thing that I was talking about. You have all these experiences, tools, and technologies that you can search and figure out on your own what's available. And then in the Knowledge Bank, you can see all of the research, the podcasts, the articles, videos, etc. There's a lot to play with, so feel free to navigate and learn from the Cyberdelic Paradigm. Yeah.
Jose, before we close down, we asked you so many questions. Is there something that you want to share that we didn't ask?
I think it was the canvas, the tool, because no one has seen that. Actually, you guys are the first one that publicly shown this. This was released just yesterday, so especially out of the Cyberdelic oven. So I hope you liked it.
Amazing.
Certainly, I'm looking forward to start playing with it. And wow.
Do you have any example of the canvas that we can see on real, like not to imagine, like something to show everything you shared? Or not?
Yes, but I would prefer to develop it forward. I mean, I was doing this for a friend of mine, developing an experience for a mirror that is extended through mixed reality. But I need to ask permission if I can share this in public.
Yeah, no, of course.
But I would love to do it.
Jose, can I ask you a last question now that you showed all this amazing stuff that, wow, I didn't know that's like so interesting. What's the economical model? I mean, it looks very invested, and it looks very invested, very like really high end, and where's the money from? No, I'm not trying to be intrusive.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
It's very interesting because here we just dealing with budgets that,
Currently, all this is developed by pure sweat and love from our own pockets.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we haven't had the, let's say, the success we wish to have for raising money yet, but we're still working towards that. We realize that any funding strategy now needs like a solid minimum viable product, a prototype working, some track record for community as well, for demand, and we're building that just on our own time and our own investment. We are making a little bit of money with client work with the Cyberdelic Labs, but the idea is once we release the membership, we can get at least some income for operational costs to be covered, and then from there releasing more content, so then we can 10x our traffic and potentially survive only on memberships and start focusing on fundraising for the dojos. But I think the dojos will most likely be fundraised if we have some science, because unfortunately money follows evidence and science. So we need to make these protocols first and these scientific studies with sensoria research. But I think it's not. Things are shifting, and I saw that with Edward in last Human Tech Week and the whole community of Human Tech Week, kind of trying to shift the market towards this incentive. So it's slowly is building there, and we're just getting ready for it. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened yet, but it's coming.
I believe so. Yeah. We all believe so. I believe. I think here.
Thank you, Leo.
Believe and pray.
Yeah.
Believe and right as well. Because believe by itself, it's not. At least we figure out like we need to put the skin on the game, basically.
Excellent. Cool.
Lior, you want to share a bit what you do, since if you have 2 more minutes, or we have to go, Jose?
I'm okay.
I'll say just in a very short way, because I have to go actually. First of all, really thank you very much. It was really eyes-opening and everything, and mind-blowing in a lot of ways. Like Omer said, and I'm into rituals and ceremonies, and I've been like exploring this field for many years now in various ways, both as a creator and a participator in different kind of ceremonies, rituals, also theoretically and practically. I'm coming from a background of creation. I'm a filmmaker, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist. And the way that I bring art and people together through shared ceremonies could be very, very transformative, like I said. And actually this is why I'm currently exploring ways of creating like areas or fields where shared experience can be had, and going through something which is meaningful for the individual and for a collective, for making this connection between people. So I play with it. I do a lot of experiments, and I truly try to engage technology in it, because I believe that modern day ceremonies, like I believe also I really like traditional ceremonies and the old ways, but these days needs different ceremonies, like you said and you mentioned, but the art of ceremony, or the technology of ceremony is almost disappeared, and I'm trying to revive it in our times in a way through our tools, because some of our tools are technological, obviously, so why not use it? So this is what I'm doing.
That's very inspiring, Lior. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah,
and looking forward to hear the results for tomorrow. I'm really intrigued.
Yeah. We'll keep you updated. Maybe.
Yeah.
And I will also mention another kind of synchronicity is that I've recently joined a lab in consciousness research in Israel. That is involved in the research of my current project is on near-death experiences. So
Awesome.
right now I'm analyzing data sets like EEG data sets of people that had psilocybin ceremonies to test some hypotheses, but the next experiment will be on people that were actually had near-death experiences. and to try to compare them to people who had similar experiences through psychedelics, through ayahuasca or things like that. And
Nice.
one of the research that we are like having is actually related to David Gloaki's experiment.
Excellent.
So I've heard about
Awesome.
him like recently. It sounds a very, very interesting experiment. So I would be very happy to continue our conversation about this. Certainly.
100%. That sounds very exciting, Omer. Congrats on the new integration in this consciousness research lab. And you guys should have David here. I can ask him if you want. He's a a treat in deep conversations and very rigorous science as well. So high respect for that.
Excellent.
We would love to, Omer, no?
Yes, certainly.
Awesome. It's a busy guy, so it probably will be in some time forward, but yeah, you can always schedule it.
Brilliant.
So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I need to go.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jose.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Omer,
everyone,
for
for
arranging
joining.
it, and Liao, thank you very much for arranging it. It's really amazing. Bye.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. Bye-bye.
Good thing.
Bye, guys. Thank you.